Hello everybody, my name is Sean, and welcome back to Go Big Bore or Go Home, where recoil is required. Why? Because we're the house of the rising gun. You know, when people think of a big handgun, usually the .44 Remington Magnum is what comes to mind. I mean, can you blame them? It's become an icon not just in the firearms community, but also in the media thanks to being featured in television and film. But where did the idea for this powerhouse come from, and what was the intended use? Let's take a closer look at the cartridge that makes everyone's day and has criminals asking themselves if they're feeling lucky. The origin of the venerable .44 Magnum started with the well-known Elmer Keith. He had been experimenting with the .45 Colt cartridge for the purpose of handgun hunting large, dangerous game. But then, one day, he blew up his Colt single-action Army cylinder. After writing into the American Rifleman magazine, it was suggested to Keith that he should try experimenting with the .44 Special instead. The brass made for the .44 Special was thicker than the brass that was being made for the .45 Colt at the time. So Elmer did just that and started getting some spectacular results. It wasn't too long before he decided he should try to get the firearms industry to check out what he was up to. Elmer got in touch with some folks he knew, and Smith & Wesson started looking into it along with Remington. And in late 1955, a Ruger employee stumbled across some strange handgun cartridge brass in a scrapyard and brought it to the attention of Bill Ruger Sr. He saw the Remington stamp and decided to pay them a visit. He must have been one smooth talker because he left their offices with enough technical specifications for the cartridge that he could start working on a gun for it. More on that in a bit. In January of 1956, Smith & Wesson released a new end-frame revolver that we now know as the Model 29 as the very first firearm to be chambered in the .44 Remington Magnum cartridge. The new cartridge was something no one at that time had ever seen before. After all, the very first cartridge to bear the Magnum title, the .357, had only come around about 21 years earlier in 1935. Here was this behemoth, big-bore round chambered in a revolver that was intended to hunt large game. It had a brass case length of 1.285 inches, chambered the same .429-inch or .430-inch bullet as the .44 Smith & Wesson Special, and had a max chamber pressure of 36,000 pounds per square inch. Bullets could range from 180 grains up to, nowadays, 340 grains, and the velocity they generated made heads turn. While most factory ammo today will shoot a 240 grain bullet at 1,180 feet per second, the ammo that became available when the .44 Magnum first hit the market was pushing the limits at around 1,450 feet per second. And for people who had never dreamed of a handgun with this kind of power, they were caught completely off guard. Shortly afterwards, Great Western Arms Company, now defunct, released a single-action Army-style revolver in .44 Magnum, though it had trouble standing up to some of the more powerful loadings for that round. About 8 months after Smith & Wesson, Ruger released its Blackhawk single-action revolver in the cartridge as well, and the rest is history. Just kidding. Despite the popularity of the .44 Magnum today, the cartridge was not a hit out of the gate. People were unhappy with the recoil generated by this monster and did not like the amount of control it took to shoot it. In fact, there are stories of people who were not prepared for the recoil ending up with marks between their eyebrows from the hammer spur coming back and hitting them in the forehead. Many wondered what the point of a handgun with this kind of power was when they were used to hunting solely with a rifle. And by the end of the 1960s, the cartridge looked like it might become a forgotten exercise in excess. But then, in 1971, something unexpected happened. A film hit theaters about a loose-cannon San Francisco police officer pursuing an unhinged psychopath as he gunned down people with a hunting rifle fitted with a silencer, murdered a priest, kidnapped, tortured, and murdered a teenage girl, and took a school bus full of children hostage. That police officer was Inspector Harry Callahan, played by Clint Eastwood, and the film was Dirty Harry. Why Dirty Harry?
Every dirty job that comes along.
In the film, Harry carries a Smith & Wesson Model 29.
My, that's a big one.
And in a famous scene, he confronts a criminal reaching for a shotgun by giving one of the coolest monologues in cinema about how his revolver is the most powerful handgun in the world, and ends by asking the criminal,
You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
It was a hit with the public, and it spawned a total of 4 sequels. Magnum Force in 1973, The Enforcer in 1976, Sudden Impact in 1983, where Harry Callahan uses his backup gun, a .44 Automag, and gives us this quotable line,
Go ahead. Make my day.
And The Deadpool in 1988. No, not that Deadpool. And along with enjoying the performance of Clint Eastwood, people loved his co-star, the Smith & Wesson Model 29. Overnight, the .44 Magnum was a smash hit, with Model 29 selling out, going on backorder, and then selling for over retail price. People had to have their very own, most powerful handgun in the world. The .44 Magnum now had a new lease on life, and its popularity led to the cartridge becoming the phenom that it is today. So after being saved, what happened? Well, people started getting the true point of this round, hunting. They realized that a cartridge like this could cover decent distances and had the power to take any mid-sized game easily. And when loaded with the right bullet, it could take large game too. Deer, antelope, hogs, bear, and many other game animals fell to the power of the .44 Magnum. And handgun hunting really took off. Many hunters enjoyed the challenge of having to stalk game and get close like archery hunters do, and they naturally could carry a firearm that was far lighter than a rifle. And that's not all. Handgun silhouette shooting competitions became a big thing. Starting in 1967, it took off like a shot in the 1970s. The .44 Magnum was practically tailor-made for this. Its 240 grain bullets had no trouble knocking over steel silhouettes out to 200 meters, and it has been the gold standard for this type of long-distance competition for a long time. While the sport began waning in popularity in the late 80s, it is still going on to this day, and the .44 Magnum is still extremely popular for use in it. The popularity and eventual ubiquity of this round has led to almost every major manufacturer making a revolver in it. Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Taurus, Colt, Freedom Arms, and Korth all produce firearms in this round currently. And naturally, the Desert Eagle is chambered in it as well. It may surprise some to know that the LAR Grizzly was chambered in it too. It's also been chambered in many a lever-action carbine as well. And ammo is plentiful. You can find all sorts of loadings from major manufacturers with very specialty ammunition specifically designed for hunting. And then there's the reloading side, which I can personally attest is like being a kid in a candy shop. There's just no end to the options you have with this caliber, and when loaded right, it can be used for pretty much everything the world over. While I would personally want more power for the African Big Five, they have been taken with the .44 Magnum in the past. So there you have it, guys, an up-close and personal look at the .44 Remington Magnum, making punks question their luck since 1971. What cartridge would you like to see next in our caliber close-ups? A big bore plinker, a powerhouse hunter, or maybe a wildcat that is only talked about by channels like ours? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more content as it really helps out the channel. If you didn't like it, I appreciate you checking out the video and giving us a chance. And as always, go big bore or go home. And it has been the gold standard for this type of long-distance competition.